The morning sun glittered across Lake Serenity like scattered diamonds, and I was sitting on my dock with my golden retriever, Charlie, watching the loons glide across the water. I bought this lakefront property 3 years ago, 27 acres of pristine wilderness, complete with shoreline, forest, and the old boathouse my grandfather built in 1952. This place was my sanctuary, my escape from the corporate world I'd left behind. That's when I saw her marching down the dirt road toward my property. She wore a blazer so aggressively pink, it looked like it was trying to colonize the entire color spectrum. Her heels clicked against the gravel with military precision, and she carried a clipboard like it was Excalibur. Behind her trailed a nervous-looking man in khakis, her husband, I'd later learn, who seemed to be trying to become invisible. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Excuse me, sir." I stood up slowly, brushing dirt off my jeans. Charlie's tail stopped wagging, his instincts telling him something unpleasant was approaching. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She stopped at the edge of my dock, eyeing me like I was something she found stuck to her shoe. "I'm Patricia Hendricks, president of the Lake Serenity Homeowners Association. I don't believe we've had the pleasure of meeting. That's because I'm not part of any HOA. I replied evenly. This is private property. Has been since the 1940s. Her smile was thin and dangerous. "I'm afraid you're mistaken. All properties within a half-mile radius of Lake Serenity fall under our jurisdiction. You've been in violation of several ordinances, and I'm here to inform you of the fines you accumulated." I felt my jaw tighten. "Fines?" She consulted her clipboard with theatrical precision. "Your dock doesn't meet our aesthetic standards. It should be stained cedar, not weather gray. Your boathouse is an eyesore that violates our historical preservation guidelines. You've been parking your truck in plain view instead of in an enclosed garage. And," she wrinkled her nose, "you have a dog on the property without submitting the proper pet registration forms and fees." I stared at her, genuinely speechless for a moment. "Lady, I don't know what you're talking about. This property has been in my family for generations. There's no HOA on my deed, no covenant, nothing. The HOA was established 18 months ago," Patricia said, her voice dripping with condescension. "All existing properties were automatically enrolled. Your ignorance of the bylaws does exempt you from compliance. You currently owe $3,700 in fines, and that number increases by $50 per day until violations are corrected." Behind her, her husband was staring very intently at his shoes. "Get off my property," I said quietly. "Now." Her eyes went wide with theatrical shock. "I beg your pardon?" "You heard me. This is private land. You have no authority here, and you're trespassing. Leave." Patricia's face flushed red, clashing spectacularly with her pink blazer. "How dare you speak to me that way? I am trying to maintain property values and community standards, and hostile individuals like you are exactly the problem. If you refuse to comply, I'll have no choice but to take legal action. Do whatever you think you need to do," I said, crossing my arms, "but do it from somewhere else. You're not welcome here." She sputtered for a moment, clearly unaccustomed to anyone refusing her commands. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Roger." She snapped her fingers at her husband like summoning a dog. "We're leaving, but we'll be back with the police." I watched them retreat, Patricia's heels stabbing the ground with each furious step. Charlie whined softly, pressing against my leg. "It's okay, boy," I murmured, scratching behind his ears. Just another day in paradise. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned. People like Patricia didn't make empty threats. They were the type who'd weaponize every system they could find. I pulled out my phone and called my attorney, Michael Chun, who'd handled my grandfather's estate. "Mike?" "Yeah, it's James." I need you to pull up everything about my lake property. Deeds, titles, surveys, all of it. And find out what you can about something called the Lake Serenity Homeowners Association. 20 minutes later, Mike called back, and I could hear the grin in his voice. James, you're not going to believe this. That HOA Patricia Hendricks established, it only has legal jurisdiction over the subdivision she developed, Serenity Heights. That's the cluster of McMansions on the South Shore. Your property predates their development by about 70 years, and it's explicitly exempted from any HOA covenants by the original plat map. So she has no authority over me whatsoever? None. Zero. Zilch. But here's where it gets interesting. Mike paused for dramatic effect. You know that subdivision she's so proud of? The one she's HOA president of. Yeah. It's built on land that was subdivided and sold by her grandfather in 1998. According to the deed restrictions he put in place, certain easements and rights were retained by the original property owner, meaning you. You technically have access rights to the private road she uses, veto power over certain types of development, and, get this, you actually own the recreational common area where their community clubhouse sits. I felt a slow smile spreading across my face. You're kidding. I never kid about property law, James. Your grandfather was very shrewd. He sold the land but kept the leverage. Patricia's been collecting HOA fees and acting like queen of the lake, not realizing the ground under her fancy clubhouse isn't technically hers. Mike, I love you. Can you draft a letter explaining all this? Something official looking? Already working on it. I'll have it to you by this afternoon. 2 hours later, right on schedule, I heard sirens. A police cruiser pulled up to my property, and out stepped Officer Davis, a decent guy I'd met a few times at the local diner. Behind him, Patricia emerged from her Mercedes like a conquering general, clipboard clutched victoriously. Officer, thank you for responding so quickly, Patricia gushed. This man is in violation of multiple HOA ordinances and has been verbally abusive and threatening when I attempted to address the issues. Officer Davis looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, I'm not really sure what you want to do about HOA violations. He's trespassing on community property. Patricia interrupted. His dock extends into waters that fall under HOA jurisdiction. I walked over calmly, carrying the folder Mike had sent via courier. Officer Davis, good to see you. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I know there has, Davis said wearily. Sir, she claims you're violating HOA rules? She claims I'm part of her HOA. I'm not. I handed him the folder. This documentation shows that my property predates her association, is legally exempt from any HOA covenants, and actually, this is the interesting part, I own the land her clubhouse sits on. Patricia's face went from pink to white to an alarming shade of purple. That's impossible. That's a lie. Officer Davis was flipping through the pages, his eyebrows climbing higher with each one. Ma'am, these are certified copies of deed records and surveys.